Okay, in order to factor, we need to have our equation equal to 0. So I'm going to add 18 on both sides of the equation, which gives me a 10x squared minus 27x plus 18 equals 0. And I have a lot of big numbers there, so I want to try to find a common factor. But as I look at 10, my only factors are 2 and 5, and neither one of those factors is in the number 27. So there's no common factors here, so I have to go straight to my parentheses. I taught my class that the first number in the equation, this is all coming from distributing backwards. So when we distribute, we see the pattern that gives us how to factor. So when we multiplied, we found out that the first number in each expression multiply together when we distribute to give us that first term. 5x times 2x is 10x squared. Now I could also use 10 and 1. And so that's what's tricky, is that I don't know which one to use yet. But out of those two, I'm going to go with 5 and 2 because 10 seems pretty big. If 5 and 2 doesn't work, I can always try to go with 10 and 1. We also talked about how the last number in the equation comes from multiplying out two binomials, two sets of parentheses, getting the last two digits in each one. The last digit in each parentheses multiplies to give you 18. Now, factors of 18, we have 1 and 18, but 18 is pretty big. We're probably not going to use that. We have 2 and 9, which is very doable, and we have 3 and 6. So there's no guarantee that the first one you pick is going to be right. In the last video, I mentioned that these are a puzzle piece. So you have these 3 puzzle pieces that you are trying in your puzzle. You're trying to see if the puzzle piece 118 fits, and so you might plug in a -1 and a -18. And if that doesn't fit, you might turn your puzzle piece around and say -18, -1. Now I know that one doesn't work, so if that puzzle piece doesn't work, then we take that piece out and we put in a different puzzle piece. I do know that I have to have negatives here because we talked about the different patterns in our class, and we said that a negative number times a negative number, like -3 times -6, gives me a positive 18. And when they add together, when everything adds together, I need it to be negative. So I have to have a negative involved. So let's see. I need a 27. So my first thought is to put a 6 here and a 3 here, because I know that this times this in the middle is going to give me -6x, and this times this is going to give me a -30. And I really wanted that 30 because I knew 30 was close to 27, but those two numbers don't add up to 27. So that puzzle piece doesn't fit, at least that way, but it might fit if I turn it around. So use some white out here and switch those numbers and put the 3 with the 2 and the 6 with the 5. And now if I check that, I get a -12x from the inside two numbers, and I get a -15x from the outside two numbers, and if I add those, I get -27x, which is what I wanted. So my factor is now correct, and I want to solve it. So I'm going to take each factor, set it equal to 0, and solve that equation. So if I add 6 to both sides, I get 5x equals 6. If I divide both sides by 5, 6 divided by 5 is 1.2, or 6/5. If I take my other one, 2x minus 3 equals 0. I can add 3 to both sides and get 2x equals 3. I can divide both sides by 2 and get 3/2, or 1.5. And those are my two solutions.